Hello and welcome back to the 321 Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Wiley, and this is a show where we talk to endurance athletes from all over the globe. As you may know, this show is brought to you by BocoGear.com. Boco Gear has the best hats that money can buy if you're a runner or an endurance athlete. I don't look good in hats, but I look good in a Boco Gear hat. So go check them out. Grab yourself a hat. But today is all about our next guest. Very excited to bring on this gentleman. He is a performance coach, an elite strength coach. He coaches endurance athletes from all over the globe. And to top it all off, he's an all-American duathlete. So without further ado, let's bring on Kevin Hanover. Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Patrick. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And you're coming live from Boulder, Colorado. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've been here for a few years now.
Awesome. What's the weather like over there today?
Cold. It's I think I woke up, it was -5 this morning.
Gotta love it. So it's a good thing you have your pain cave set up in there so you don't have to go brave the negative temps.
This is true.
Yeah. So really quick, maybe you can give the viewers and listeners, in a minute or less, the Reader's Digest of who is Kevin Hanover.
Like you said, I'm a performance coach. I coach a realm of athletes, mostly multi-sport, swim, bike, run, of all abilities and all distances. And I've got some really great athletes out there too as well. I've got a U16 surfer in Puerto Rico that I'm super excited about, and strength coach with him, and a few people all around the world, really, London, South Africa, people that really just want to connect and get their performance to the next level.
Amazing. And how long have you been running your coaching business?
I established H Body Lab in 2012. So really my career started in 2007 and in New York City. And that's really where I built the foundation of the business.
Awesome. And what got you so passionate about multisport and fitness that you decided to make it a career?
I started off as a strength coach by trade. In 2007, I was in New York City, and it was one of these luck by draw where it was the one time that I had been fired from a job, and I decided to go into fitness. It was part of my life growing up. I was a big skier my whole life, soccer, hockey, the East Coast sports, right?
Sure.
And there was a 35,000 square foot private studio in downtown Manhattan that was opening. And my buddy told me to go check it out. So they went down to a skeleton crew. They had me come on as a strength coach. I got certified pretty quickly. And I spent 2 years on the floor, Patrick. I was eating tuna fish out of a can. I was waking up at 4 a.m. and I was in the gym taking naps throughout the day on the couch, in the lounge. It was a grind. And I wanted to really learn as much as I could. And through that, really, long story short, there were a lot of endurance athletes that were coming into the gym seeking help because they had knee injuries, ankle issues, Achilles issues, all these little things that they couldn't get rid of. And they didn't have strength programs implemented into their training. So kind of along the lines of a Matt Dixon philosophy, who I've been following for years and years, we started implementing a lot of the mobility and stability elements and movement pattern elements into their programs. That's really how I started to build the team.
So that's interesting. It's funny that you describe the lifestyle of being a coach at a large facility like that. I had a short stint as a CrossFit trainer, and that was the same thing. Getting up at 4 a.m., being at the gym at 5 to open up for your 5:30 class, and then eating the tuna fish out of the can and sleeping in the back room, the whole nine. So I can definitely relate to that. That it takes a lot of dedication. At that time, were you yourself a multi-sport athlete? Or was this something that you kind of got into after having exposure to those athletes coming to you for strength?
Like most people, my first multi-sport experience was kind of a dare. It was one of the head coaches that I was working with. He was also an elite coach. Got into multisport, and he was not a swimmer. He was more of a runner. And I had growing up on the East Coast, 15 minutes from the beach, and I thought, oh, I can swim, and got in the pool. And as you know, swimming in open water, ocean, being around boats and sailing and doing those things is much different than a front crawl and actually competing. And so I only spent 2 weeks. I'll go through all the mistakes that beginners will make in the pool preparing for my first sprint try, and it was not easy. It was Harriman State Park, which is it's super hilly and technical, and but I had fun, and that's how I kind of got into it and made my way up into long course. Tried my hand at a few 70.3s, and then really just found that short course, I'm more of a sprinter. I'm more strength oriented, and short course was my love. I went right back to that and started racing more duathlons, more 5Ks, and more sprints.
Nice. And, you know, I want to talk a little bit about the duathlons here for a second. You know, me personally, I've only had one experience with a duathlon, and it was not by choice. So I was scheduled to do a 70.3 in Daytona in December. And I ended up, as I was packing up my bike, I slipped taking my pedals off, and my finger went into the chain ring and absolutely destroyed my finger. So I wasn't able to do the swim. Luckily, the race organization that was putting it on had a duathlon option. So I did that. I did very well, but I will say this, in my experience, and maybe you can speak to this, duathlons are a different beast than triathlons. For me, it was the pacing was a lot different because you're running, then you're biking, and then you have to run again. So, you know, maybe you can talk a little bit about the differences between duathlon and triathlon, and maybe the mentality or the pacing behind that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, swimming is such low impact, and it's mostly upper body, right? You've got the kick, but for most triathletes, especially if it's a wetsuit swim, you're really not going to be using your lower body much, right? You're going to save those energy systems and those large muscle groups for the bike and the run. So, you know, and with that said, there have been times where in the 70.3, I've gotten out of the water, and I've had a hard time holding myself up on the bike in the last 10 miles because I'm so fatigued in the upper body. But the energy systems are different. The pacing is different. Like I said, you have, you're going from horizontal, and then you're gradually making your way up into the run to a vertical stance. And the way you produce force is different, right? So with a duathlon, that run bike run is a beast if you're really going for it, because you're producing so much energy from that vertical standpoint, producing force from the run. Then you got to get on the bike, which is low impact, but you're still pushing. You're still pushing some pacing, and then that second run is can be pretty brutal. You know, and I'm racing short course, so it's all out for
right. It's like zone 5 the entire time, I would imagine, right?
Really is. And most of the time when I'm running off the bike in training 2 to 3 days a week, just so that there's so much familiarity. And 1 to 2 of those has intensity. So you've got to really have a mental element to prepare to go into a very dark place.
Yeah, especially on the long course. Well, I guess even on the short course too, because you're pushing so hard. But you're not lying when you said you got to be prepared for that dark place, because that dark place comes. You know, for me, it came at the end of my half marathon in that duathlon, where I said I never want to do this again. You know, I felt like I was pushing so hard. You know, even on the bike, I was cramping on the bike. I'd never experienced that in a half distance race before. So it's a beast. You know, so I commend you for, you know, putting in the work that you put in. I see your training on Instagram all the time. You offer a lot of great tips in mobility and form. You know, is this some of that form and the mobility that you do? Is that what has led you to become an All-American duathlete? And what were the circumstances leading up to you becoming an All-American?
You know, I've been really diligent about finding the things that I love, right? And that's kind of where a lot of my coaching standpoint comes from. I get a lot of beginner long course athletes that come and they want to experience the 70.3, the 140.6, and they want to experience Ironman, and they want to experience these things. And what I like to coach is that, yeah, I'm going to get you there. I'm going to help you get to the start and the finish line fit and fast. And I'm going to help you get to your goals, right? It's my athlete's journey. I'm here to steer the bus, right? Mm-hmm. And once they've accomplished those things, some athletes, as you know, there's always a next level. There's always a next challenge, right? It's always, what's after a 140.6? Is it ultras? Is it trail running? What comes after that? Mm-hmm. And really, part of my coaching is finding what the athlete really loves to do, right? If that's going back to Olympic distance and getting faster and fitter and stronger, producing, learning how the body produces force, using other tools, using the bike to get stronger for the run, that strength element, then I'm all for it. Like, I want you to enjoy this and make multisport or make whatever you enjoy part of your daily life. And I think that's where a lot of athletes, a lot of amateur athletes or age groupers, I shouldn't say average because we're not average. That's where they falter, is that they have a hard time fitting it into their lifestyle, right? They think that they've got to do it, but really, we've got so many things in our life. We really need to take care of our health, nutrition, sleep. So we've got cognitive, metabolic, and our chassis to take care of, but we also have family, friends, social life, and work that has to come first. So that's a big part of my coaching right now is really finding what they love. And I have an athlete who was a multi-sport athlete for many years, and they'll go out and still rock a 70.3. They can. But right now they're into running 6-hour loops, every few months. And they'll go out and do a 2-mile open water swim in the summertime and just enjoy the energy of it, enjoy being out with the other athletes, enjoy the venue, right? As you know, multisport can take you all over the world.
It really can. It takes you, multisport and even running in general can take you to some amazing places. Me personally, I haven't been on this journey for too long. I changed my life around at the beginning of 2019. And just in that short amount of time, I've experienced things in my life that I never thought I would because of endurance sports. Would you say that, helping these athletes realize that and experience these things is the driving force behind you doing what you love to do? Or is there a bigger why to why Kevin Hanover is so passionate about, helping better other athletes?
I think that's a big driving force. Absolutely. I really want to help people find joy, as cliche as that sounds, but fitness, what I've noticed and what I've realized over several years is that we have this massive push in our youth, in our early childhood, for fitness and for physical education. And then at some point, if you're active throughout high school, at some point when you go into secondary education, post-secondary education, kind of goes on the back burner. And there's really not a place for a lot of young athletes to go when they get into college or post-college. And that happened to me. Even though I was a big skier, like, I would hit the mountain throughout college, and then in post-college, I'd hit the gym every once in a while, but it wasn't a part of my life anymore. And I missed that. It was like such an immense drive that I missed, that I wanted part of my life. And what really kind of drew me back into it, and I know this sounds ridiculous, was like, every day after work at sunset, I'd hit the driveway with one of my best friends, and we'd throw a Frisbee. And that was like one of the most joyful things in my life, because I missed just being outside and being active. So yeah, it's a huge driving force. I think that the other part of it is making sure that people are healthy and happy with the mobility and the stability elements and the movement prep. There is that drive in me that wants to be better all the time. I think I'm way past my prime in being the best. But, this goes back to being part of or partaking in that daily like stretch, that daily foam roll, and just making sure that the body is mobile. Those things are so important, and we neglect that little 1% that will make the big difference. And I think that's to your earlier question. I think that's really what got me to where I am as an All-American, was that I'm super diligent about finding those events that I like. I really enjoy going to the national USAT events. They're super well put on. They're super organized. There's not a lot of hoops to jump through, and you get there and the energy is very different. The best of the best from all over, from all 50 states are there, and they want to compete. So you know that you're with the best. And so that drive in me is the force. It's getting to those national events and then getting better every year. And that's one of the things I just posted on Instagram. Was I get a lot of questions about, at what age do you really start to see a decline in your performance? And a lot of people are asking about their 40s. I'm in my early 40s, so I can contest to that. And honestly, I'm still setting PRs on my deadlifts. I'm still getting faster in my 5K. I mean, I think there's a lot of things to say about how we move and how we train. It just needs to be progressive, and there needs to be a plan. Well, as you know.
Yeah, and let's talk about this age thing for a second. So, I'm in my early 30s. I'm 33. You're in your early 40s. It seems to me, in endurance sports in particular, the most stacked age groups are the 30s and early 40s. What is it that there's just so many participants at this age and performing at a high level? They're not just doing it, they're doing it, and they're doing it well and fast. What do you think it is about that age group that brings about such large participation?
Well, one is resources, right? I think that a lot of our age groups, in the 40s, 50s, even a lot of baby boomers, they have resources, they have some time, they're looking for the next challenge. But for the 30s and 40-year-olds, man, when I was in my mid-30s, I used to dread aging up, because I was like, I am going to get destroyed. And now it's kind of the opposite. But like you said, some of the most stacked age groups, you're very humbled by. I have had women in their 50s just kind of float right by me on that back half on the run, and I'm just astonished. But I think, we coined the term masters athlete, and that's kind of when we get into our early 40s. There is some science behind being at your best they say every 20 years. There is some science behind that. So, when you hit your 40s, if you're diligent and you're keeping your body well, mobile and moving consistently, then yeah, you can rock it. I mean, you can really get to the next level.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. I think right now there's a lack of female athletes in the younger age groups. I think that we need a massive push to recruit into multisport in a lot of the younger age groups, and to be 20 to 30 years old in multisport and be particularly a female right now there's unlimited potential for even future sponsorship or resources or those things. I just, it's incredible to see.
What's needed to bring about that change and I guess that revival in that particular demographic?
That's the magic
Is it club sports? Is it introducing multi-sport in schools? I mean, as far as I know, I mean, I've never heard of there being a triathlon team at a high school. Maybe there are in certain areas, but at least where I'm from here in Rhode Island, that doesn't exist. You have track, you have a swimming team if you're lucky. It certainly not a cycling team.
No, and that's just it. Multisport really, especially in the Northeast, is not really introduced. I think out here, out west, especially in Arizona, Utah, and some other places, there's a lot of even high school and collegiate teams. Here, when you rock up to a local sprint or a local Olympic, there's collegiate teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they're chanting on the beach, and they've got the camaraderie, and they've got the kits, and it's a big thing. It's a club sport, but it's growing. And I think that's the $1 million question is, USAT really pushes hard for recruitment. They have their own combine, and they will reach out and go to local schools, and they will recruit mostly swimmers, because that's the hardest thing as adults, as for us to relearn or to learn how to swim.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the recruiting is done through swimmers and runners at the collegiate level or younger. And there's a real big push for that, and I'm seeing a lot of younger athletes come in. I'm on a few platforms where I'll see requests for, 12 to 15-year-olds that want run coaches. So, I think it's just introducing that and finding people that can reach out to high schools and start those programs that have resources for it.
Sure. And, I think social media is going to be big in a lot of this, as well as, we live in this influencer world where, you can go on, like somebody like yourself, myself, we can go on and we can create an audience and cater to those demographics where maybe 10 years down the road, this is something that's the norm, where we see young females getting involved, and now maybe they're the majority. I mean, who knows? So I definitely want to commend you for your presence on social, and encourage you to keep going and keep giving those helpful tips and advice. So if you're not following Kevin, you can follow him at Kev Hanover on Instagram. Again, great mobility tips and strength tips all the time. Maybe, before we go, can you give us, maybe not a tip, but what's the biggest mistake that you see from newer athletes? It doesn't matter the age here, I guess. What's the biggest thing that you see, that whether it's a mindset thing or what is it that's holding newer athletes back from reaching their potential?
Oh man, I can give you more than one.
Give me a couple.
I think number one is having a plan, right? Mm-hmm. I think that having a coach has always been underrated. I think there's always, it's very polar. There's always going to be the people that are going to get us a set plan and they make it work for them. But having a coach and having that dynamic program that is flexible and having somebody to be able to give you feedback is number one. Nutrition for sure is at the top of the list. One of my favorite stories is my first 70.3 actually in New Hampshire on the East Coast, a discontinued race that was many, many years ago. I thought I had everything dialed in. I had a coach at the time and we didn't really go over nutrition in depth. And I had my best swim. I had a killer bike. Bike is my favorite discipline. And I went all out, didn't leave much in the tank, didn't have enough caloric intake, enough carbohydrate, and then got out in the run. Halfway through the run, done, nothing left in the tank. And I think that's what I see the most consistent, is that there's just not enough fuel intake, not enough hydration. It is really underestimated how much you need to take in during long course. And to finish up that story, I did end up on the side of the road, and there was a kind gentleman that was making pancakes on the side of the road in front of his house. And I sat and I spent about 10 or 15 minutes eating to my heart's content so that I could get to the finish line.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I would love to have pancakes in the middle of a long course race.
I wish I could thank that kind man today.
If he's listening or watching, Kevin thanks you for the pancakes.
And just being consistent. I think consistency is the other, right? Because we have like I said, we have the social aspects in our life. We have work, family, friends, and we're trying to fit in sport. And I think we get overwhelmed. So I think it's just finding that consistency in our lives to just get those sessions in. And even if you're taking a couple full days of recovery off, or you need those full days, you've got kids. I have a 5-year-old, so I understand. I try and put myself in the same situations that my athletes are in, so that I understand what they're going through. And I've been doing that for several years, obviously. So, it's all about, consistency. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's all great advice. I mean, especially on the nutrition, I think even myself, I'm sure there are a lot of endurance athletes out there who essentially train to eat. I like to count my calories, like, oh, I burned 2,000 calories today, and now I'm going to go treat myself with an entire pizza or a box of cookies and stuff like that, which, you can do that for a little while, but once you get to a certain point and you hit a plateau, you really got to, rethink your nutrition plan. And even while you're training, I think you would second this. You need to practice your fueling while you're training, and don't do anything new on race day, right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of races, do you have any big races that you're doing personally this year? Anything that you're excited about that you have on the calendar?
Well, Dew Nationals are the last weekend of April. So I'm about within 4 months of hitting the pavement.
So are you're going to be getting pretty close to your peak phase in training, I would imagine then.
I am getting there. I actually have a big brick today with a lot of intensity. Friday is kind of the day for that for me, and I really spend some time on that. A lot of recovery. Just came off of recovery week, actually, so I'm feeling pretty refreshed, feeling pretty good, plenty of sleep. And yeah, like you said, getting into peak phase, getting into my, just coming halfway through my preseason, going to go into sustainable effort and really work on power development, especially on the true form. And then right into in-season race. And I am really excited. I'm like, I don't race much. It's probably, I know this sounds silly, but duathlon and triathlon full events, I'm probably only racing 3 to 4 times a year. And then I'll sprinkle in a bunch of 5Ks, 1-milers, have some fun in there. And I'm also having fun with my kids. I coach at a local private school, cross country and track and field season's coming up. So, I'm in the field and I'm moving every day. So I'm excited. End of April, game on.
That's it. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Would love to follow up with you after that race and see how you did and talk about that. If you don't mind, we'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. I'll give you a rundown. I'll give you the full rundown.
Yes, sir. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. Where can folks find you? Obviously, we have you at Kev Hanover right there on the bottom of the screen there. But if they want to inquire about coaching services, where can they find you for that?
Yep. Website is hbodylab.com. That simple. And you can pretty much find all my links through social media, Instagram at Kev Hanover. I'm pretty accessible.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to know you. Super valuable advice for any endurance athlete here listening. So enjoy your brick today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks. Well, there you have it, folks. That was Kevin Hanover from Boulder, Colorado. Just an amazing person, a fantastic coach, truly passionate about what he does and passionate about his athletes. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at Kev Hanover. Please comment, like, subscribe, share this if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of 321 Endurance, and we'll check you all next time.